Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Mignot, CEO of the experience agency D-Flash. Each week on our show, we bring a different leader from business who's doing game-changing work, and this week's episode is no different. We are so excited to have Erik Herskind, CEO of GoDo Discovery company, who's got a really incredible background, an amazing story, and built an awesome business. We're so excited to have him on the show. Take a listen. Hi, Erik. Welcome.
Hey, Laura. Thanks for having me here.
So, I'm sure you listen to the podcast, so you know what the first question is going to be. And it's always fascinating to me where this leads and how it shows people's backgrounds and what they've been able to build. So, Erik, what was your first job?
You know, it's funny because I grew up in a small town in Colorado, and the town that we lived in was really just a bedroom community for Colorado Springs, and there weren't really the traditional jobs for young people to have. So most of us didn't start working until we were about 16 years old and could drive. So as soon as I could, and summer hit, my dad, who was in a concrete business, got me a job as a laborer at actually the second shopping center ever being built in Colorado Springs. So that
second shopping center.
Yes, kind of like the classic 1980s mall, which are sadly now a thing of the past.
Away.
Yes.
So sad.
Yeah.
And so, okay, what did you do?
It was the lowest guy at the job site. It was preparing the finish out of the different retail spaces, because the mall was, when I started working there, it was about 3 months away from opening. So it was preparing the finish out space so that, a Spencer's Gift or something awesome from that time period could open. So it was just sweeping out spaces. It was just being a laborer. Yeah.
And you were like, okay, I never want to do this job ever again. Lesson learned.
I think, yeah, of course. But the other piece was, it was, the first time to earn your own money and to feel a sense of something different than the path that you had to be on through school or athletics. And I quickly learned that saying yes to overtime was a smart thing to do.
Exactly.
Because at 3 o'clock when everybody else went home, you might stay another couple hours. Still, you're done at 5. And, when the paycheck came every Friday, it was like, wait, look at this.
I got more money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like how me of my first job, where I figured out how to ask for more money by just saying I want more money, and that actually worked.
Yep.
It was like
you look back on that and things that you learned about yourself, and things that you now maybe take forward, or you may laugh at when you look back on that time of your life. But for sure, kind of volunteering and saying, yeah, sure, I'll do more. What else is there?
Well, that's what also kind of interesting, because it's always fascinating to me that people who become entrepreneurs and who manage their own businesses always started out by like taking the extra step.
Sure. And
not just doing what everybody has to do, because you're like, no, I want to try something else. So
yep.
It's definitely fascinating to me that is an endemic trait to everybody in whatever they do.
Yep.
Speaking of which, so now your day job, what is it you do? Yes,
so today, and I'm glad we're talking at this kind of point in our company's evolution. We started a kind of an untypical ad agency in 2006, and really started with my partner, a woman named Olivia Cole, who I'd worked with previously, and we both sort of found ourselves at a point in our lives where there was an opportunity to kind of do something bigger and something different. And when we launched what was then called Greenlight, we really, half of the company was built around what we hoped it could be, and half was built around experiences that we had at other agencies that we didn't want to bring forward.
Exactly.
And our belief that there was a better way to do really what we're doing for clients, and for really what our industry is doing for, and has been doing for decades and decades, that we just kind of saw that there's another way to tackle and approach providing agency and marketing services. So we'll probably talk some more about that. But fast forward to today, in January of this year, we kind of reformed our business, and we launched ourselves as the GoDo Discovery company, which is a creative collective dedicated to finding and activating a brand's truth. And it's really it's propped up our company. It's motivated and invigorated us to think differently about, instead of selling services, we're now guiding and helping brands better understand what their truth is and who they are.
And so for a brand, what makes finding their truth the ideal? Will that actually help their ROI? Is that just a good thing they're supposed to say?
Well, right. And it's really interesting, and things are shaped and formed by all sorts of outside forces that you can't control. And interestingly, today, given our divided kind of country that we're living through, there's never really been a better time for brands to stand for the truth. You could argue that advertising and marketing and brands and companies, especially advertising piece of that, has always been a little misleading, a little exaggerated, a little fluffy, right? And so the irony now is that brands can take a step back and say, hey, wait a minute. Today, we can stand for the truth. We can be authentic and transparent and show everybody who we really are and what we stand for, and kind of take a different approach. And the timing is crucial. With nobody trusts anybody. I mean, we don't trust the news anymore. And think back.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and think back to how we were raised, right?
Yeah, it's like we all knew that you could watch, Dan Rather watch Dan Rather, Peter Jennings at 6:30 p.m.
And you got the truth.
And you got the truth.
Yeah.
And now it's
so
on Twitter all day long.
Right. And so when things break down like that, we believe that this is an opportunity for brands to take a step forward, to stand for something, and really to dig deeper into who they are and uncover their truth, or bring their truth forward, or revisit their truth. There's all sorts of ways to kind of think about this. And it's super powerful when a company can step back and say, this is who we stand for, this is what we stand for, and see their audiences gravitate to that.
Awesome. And what's been the response from your clients? So you guys kind of reconfigured this in January, and you probably had clients before that.
Yes,
so they were like,
sure.
hey, well, what is this?
And for sure, it's a great question. We're in a kind of a funky time right now because we've gotten most of our clients over the hurdle of that we're not calling ourselves Greenlight, which they've called us for years, or paid their bills through.
Vendor updating process.
Exactly. Right. So that part's working, but they'll kind of be the before and after sort of clients, the ones that have been with us, and the ones that have been with us have been incredibly supportive of the change. A couple of them, one being Gold's Gym, went through this a version of this process a couple of years ago, not knowing it was going to lead to us this shift. But when we started kind of these what we call GoDo sessions, and really helping them understand better who they are and how they can talk to their audiences, they were a company that allowed themselves to be curious. They allowed themselves to be brave. Those are kind of some of the hallmarks of what we need to convince companies to let themselves become. And through that process, they changed their entire tone. They changed their photo style. They changed how they think of themselves. They were fighting their 1965, 54-year-old, legacy company with a history of being known as where Arnold Schwarzenegger went.
We're going to pump you up.
Yes, right. So the meathead stuff, and health and fitness has shifted drastically. It's now boutique driven. It's Soul Cycle. It's Orange Theory. It's
$90 yoga pants.
It's expensive, right? Exactly. So they needed to figure out how do we push forward similar offerings and have credibility to do that. And so what we help them do is we help them understand that their archetype had shifted from a hero brand archetype to a sage brand archetype. And now
you guys know it all.
Yeah.
Like that.
So they were really that process, and we had a couple more examples that we did for a couple of other companies. Those moments for us helped shape and understand. Hey, wait a minute. We're already kind of doing this differently. We think we're onto something bigger than just how much does a logo cost, or why did that cost that much, and just all the gross conversations you have when you're selling services. So we pushed that aside. Yeah, we do all that, of course, but those are the end, not the beginning of the conversation. And this kind of pushing forward with a brand discovery company has been uplifting. We pitched the Dallas Morning News as a new client in January, and went in as GoDo Discovery company, and won the business. It's work. It was a great feeling.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And for you guys, what was prompting the shift? Like, what was there a moment last year or in the last 18 months prior that was like, you know what, we could be a services-based an agency, or there's something bigger out there that we can shoot for?
Well, and that's really the thing. That's really what made us think long and hard about what we were doing every day with our lives, the kind of work that we were doing for clients that was meaningful, that almost had a higher purpose to it, and then the grind that comes with agency, the typical agency life. And I think we had equal parts. We had already been kind of doing it that way, so there was kind of this like, let's figure out how to talk differently about what we do, and truthfully, just sort of fatigue. It's kind of
hit the wall.
Yeah, I mean, all of us. Olivia and Todd are the other two partners and business owners, and I think we all just kind of got to a point where we're like, there's got to be, we've got to bring this forward in a better way for all of us, for our company, for our team members, and just to really remain passionate, remain optimistic about what we do. And this was it took us a year. I mean, it took us, a year of debate, of discussion, of
some fights.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's super healthy stuff. But at the end, we all realized this is a better way to do things. And and we're hearing it. You're seeing it more. You're seeing more of the big agencies like the Accenture purchase of Droga 5, where there's sort of this belief of, hey, we still need creativity, but we've got to think more strategically about business, and we've got to do these things. And that's a big part of what we shifted, was it gives us the platform to talk differently about ourselves. If I come to you and say I'm an ad agency, you already go in your head, click, 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 you already decided who I am. When we come in as a discovery company, the first question is, what is that?
Exactly.
And it's a good thing. It's a good question.
Well, I think it's also that it's, you guys are offering vulnerability to a brand.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the sort of key, that the word vulnerability has shifted so much across so many industries over, I say, like the last 3 to 4 years. Like, if you think about mental health awareness, if you talk about executive coaching, and if you talk about where brands want to go and the level of authenticity, the ability to be vulnerable and see yourself, and be like, okay, we're not all perfect. We're all, we've all got our scratches and dents, but we're all human here, and that humanity of business is where we all are trying to go. So for every brand that loves that, what about the brands that are like, no?
Well, and that's going to happen, and not unlike the world that we've always been in, which is trying to source new business, trying to find companies that work with. It's given us a more defined scorecard of kind of companies, and we ask questions. We love to say, get to the no as quick as you can.
Of course.
And hey, we've all done it. It's easy to say yes. We can, and to bend. We've really, it's been uplifting. It's been incredibly inspiring to just to kind of say no to some of these opportunities when a prospect isn't headed in the right direction that aligns with what we believe they need to do, or kind of how we do things.
And for you guys, are you guys now going to sort of going up against the Accentures? Are you, in a way, are you sort of becoming this sort of consultancy that can guide people strategically? Or is it more like, hey, listen, we're far more, strategy driven, but also we can execute?
We like the sort of a piece of both. The model that we've created today is people come in through GoDo Discovery Company. And that's more of it's really heavy strategy, getting vulnerable, being brave and curious, asking tough questions, allowing yourself, putting your guard down, and allowing yourself to give yourself permission to think differently about who you are and what you're doing. And we start every project with a go-do session. Some of them lead to brand archetyping, some of them lead to other things. But it really is, it builds, it uncovers what they're really trying to do. Then if there's work, and by the way, sometimes that's the end. Here you go.
Thanks,
no
guys.
problem. Many times it leads to, well, let's go do that now. Hence GoDo, right? and so
how many times a day do you say that?
exactly. But let's go do that. And we're in the middle of 3 projects right now that started as they believed we need to look at our brand archetype. We need to focus on some things. And then they realized, well, yeah, we do need to rebrand. We do need to, change our field marketing strategy. We do need to do some things that are different. We do need to think about our franchisees and the way we're communicating with them in a different way. So that's the work. That becomes the work. And the work is the work. And that's not going to change. And you can call it agency services, you can call it whatever you want. But that's what we do when it becomes the work. So it feels more like, it does feel a little bit more like the big boy model, but we're kind of cheating. We kind of have both sides of it. We know how to do it. We've been working on with brands and doing branding projects and marketing work for years. And now we're using the strategy piece to sort of open the books to talking differently about stuff.
Awesome. So going back, how did you even end up in the universe of advertising?
Right. You're 32 or something now, something scary.
But you're 35.
That's right. So exactly. I always, first job out of school was with a public relations firm. I've taken a couple detours away from the agency world, but that was in the hotel space. So I've always sort of been in the service world. So I know that my DNA says I'm of service. So that part is covered. And people that are not wired that way, not a problem, but don't get into what we're doing here.
You speak my language.
You got to remember, you're in the service business. But early on, I remember working on some projects when I was with the PR firms that would require partnering with an ad agency. And I always remember just kind of had a really glowing admiration for that side of things. I think the visible creativity was enticing and interesting. And I knew that one day that would kind of be where I wanted to land. And that took about 12 years before I got there. But I was in the agency, kind of stratosphere the whole time, and learned from all those experiences kind of what, as I said earlier, what an agency would look like, equal parts, where we want to go and what we never want to be.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I think it's key because oftentimes when entrepreneurs are out there like, well, I just gotta dive in and just make this happen, instead of taking a second to be like, okay, I've learned what really works and what does not work. Let me not pick up the habits of all the things that are bad. And you see it over and over again, like you are literally repeating what you just came out of.
It's interesting and depressing a little bit because
a little bit, yeah.
Because it surprises me that smart people don't see that and don't carry forward and change things that they know either were negative to the culture or weren't the right way to deal with clients or issues of that sort. And we remind ourselves frequently that our culture is based around love and respect, and we nip in the bud the first sign of somebody straying into that other world of blame, finger pointing, negativity. It's just too much. Life's too short for that stuff.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And so you're working and it's all going good. What was that moment for you where you're like, you know what, I want to start something else?
Mm-hmm. It came for me. It was in kind of the end of 2005, early 2006. I was serving as kind of a field office for a loyalty marketing agency based in San Francisco. I was working on a Dallas project of some guys I knew from kind of a past life. And Olivia Cole, who I had hired way back in 2000 at a different agency, reached out and she said, hey, because she stayed there, she said, I think this run's coming to an end over here. Would you mind coming down and taking a look around and seeing if what we could, is there anything we could do to kind of right the ship or what's going on? So I got down there and she and I quickly kind of realized that where she wasn't really something that could be saved. And I just was at a point in my life where it was time to do something bigger. I was 41 and just was like, it's time to step up and make yourself a little bit uncomfortable and push yourself and put yourself in a position that's going to be hard. It's not that it's not hard working for someone else, but it's different. And I didn't mind the uncertainty, the scary days ahead, the pressure, and I still don't really feel that way. And I don't want that to sound like it's not necessarily confidence. It's more about just belief. Belief in yourself and your team. And it's just I really wanted to. We really just want to push ourselves. And and even today with GoDo, it's pushing ourselves in a new direction. You could argue that it's scary to kind of change how you're talking about your company, and maybe it would be easier to stay on the path. But we also were like, but that's just not who we are.
Well, it's not you're not built that way.
Yeah.
I think there's something inherent about entrepreneurs. Like we pivoted what we do 3 years ago, and because before that we were a little bit of everything, and then it ended up being a session of being vulnerable at a founders retreat, and the person I was sitting next to was like, well, why do you do what you do?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I make cool experiences. And he goes, well, why? And I was like, well, I want people to feel welcome.
Right.
He's like, well, you design experiences to make people feel welcome.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Right.
Like, focus on that and nothing else. And I was like, that actually is the thing I care about the most. Like, I want everyone to feel good when they're in something that we've built. And for you guys, it sounds like really getting to that hard truth with your client and then getting to sort of peel back those layers is the thing.
And I would add into that, Laura, that for us another for me and I think for Olivia and for Todd, who's our Chief Creative Officer, we take pride in seeing our staff and our people that are new to the industry and young, passionate, aggressive, excited, super creative people kind of grow and learn under what we think is a better dynamic, and helping them understand how we deliver to our clients all the time. Working for a big agency, it's easy to quickly get shuffled away into just task management.
You're on the hamster wheel.
Yeah, not really knowing what you're doing or why. And we're really proud. I'm really proud of throwing young people into client meetings when they probably should never have been there. And
here's the pool.
and watching them thrive. And that's our staff. That's who they are. They don't know that they don't know, and it's great because they're also curious. They ask tons of great questions. So all of these things kind of collide to create, really an exciting time for us as small business owners, and really kind of remind us why we come to work every day.
So you've got everything kind of in a good spot, but what's probably been your biggest challenge over the years? It's not going to go away, and luckily it's something that other people are talking more about now, so it helps our cause. But it's hard to get clients to be brave and curious when it comes to working with a smaller independent agency. The old saying, nobody gets fired for hiring IBM or whatever, Yeah, no one gets fired for doing a commercial.
So in our town, nobody gets fired for hiring the Richards Group, because they are the the biggest and best, and they're absolutely awesome. So as we start kind of dancing a little more in that world where we're up against them, it still has to take a client to say, I'm going with you guys. I trust you, and I'm going with you guys. And that's the piece that everything that we're doing, and really a big focus that I have now is making sure decisions we make help support that, because it's a real thing, and it's the piece that sometimes we'll never overcome, and other times it's starting to become more it's more okay And that's funny to think about, but hey, I get it, something goes south and the first question is going to be asked is, who did you hire? What?
Of course.
And it's just part of the challenge that we have to take on, and it's really probably our biggest. It may be the biggest and in some ways the only thing that really, it's hard for us to get.
But it's also your biggest opportunity, because you're going to be working with the clients who are not just going to be like, hey, like, I want to do X, but like, actually, I want to dive deep. And those are the ones who, if they're going to invest with you, then they're going to be along with you for the ride.
And some of our new clients that we've worked with under kind of this new framework, they are blown away by what we've been doing and what the work product ends up being. And they're going to be the ones that are going to be our evangelists moving forward, unknowingly, because we're building these crazy, powerful case studies that they are incredibly supportive of, and we're really grateful to have these clients that are we ask all the time, hey, would you talk to this other company? They're like, absolutely. So that, again, people, hard work, reliability. These are not secret words, right?
Well, it's fascinating because always it's so simple to us.
Yeah.
But then you walk outside and you realize that actually it isn't so simple, because people forget that we're all in the human business.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, this is the way you're an automat and you just do this, and that. It's like, well, no, it's about deepening relationships. And I'm sure, like, all your clients love you guys.
Yeah.
They'll pick up the phone. They'll text you. The fact that they're willing to talk to other potential clients and be like, this is why we love them. That's because you've built relationships. And I think that's a big part of what has to happen in business to actually last longer.
For sure. And it's about people. We're at this conference here in New York this week, and a couple of big brands were talking on a panel, and one of the brands said, oh, I don't hire agencies, and I hire people. He goes, I don't really care what your name is or what your logo is. He goes, if you have great people and you are great people, I want you working on my business. And that couldn't be more true. And it's really how we have built our company to make sure that any interaction a client or prospect has with any one of us, even the newest people, they walk away feeling something different. That this is our young people are empowered. We have high expectations of them, and they live up to that. We ask them to stand for something and to stand for us, and it's great. And it makes me really happy to feel that these people are growing and are going somewhere and like to be part of something. That's
pretty incredible. So, but I have an interesting question for you about
Sure.
now. What would you tell 25-year-old Eric?
Yeah. Well, I don't remember when this was, but somebody said something about, we were talking about younger versions of ourselves, and it was someone asked, would you like to hang out with the 25-year-old version of you? And it was funny because a couple of people were like, oh no, I'd punch that guy in the face. I wouldn't punch me in the face. I think that I could be surprisingly, for sure that, but I think I could be surprisingly inspired by the younger version of me, because back then I remember kind of what we talked about earlier, saying yes to every opportunity that came along. I worked for some cool companies, and I remember getting to do some things that there's no way in the world I should have been doing. But it was like late at night, something happened, somebody needed something done, and I said, yeah, I'll do that. So and it wasn't just saying yes, it was more of grabbing something that you knew was bigger, that you shouldn't be doing, but just putting yourself kind of, in a game situation, right? Like, I guess to use a sports analogy, like you want the ball. And
come off the bench and hit the three.
That's right. And so that version of me was really good at that. And so what's that version look like today for me?
And for you, it all kind of goes back to you working at that very first job because you stay longer with the overtime.
I think it's funny. Yeah. I mean, I haven't thought of that. And thanks for the question because it brings back some fun memories. But I haven't thought of that in a long time.
Yeah, but it's always fascinating to me because those very first jobs and the decisions that you make when you have those first jobs end up sort of showing the path of where you end up because not saying no, not taking no for an answer, finding a different way, putting yourself out there and being the one to go the extra mile all turn you into Erik who's sitting here now because like you don't decide to go out there in 2005, 2006 and you're like, all right, like I could do this or I could do that. You're like, yeah, let's go for it. Yeah,
for sure.
And so back when you were first starting, how did you ever get your first client?
Yep. It's kind of things happen in a way that end up being super interesting and you're just kind of surprised. So while I was working with the agency in San Francisco on a Dallas client, I had been asked by some kind of former colleagues and that were now in client side positions. They were looking for some like small resources. So I was kind of playing matchmaker for some loyalty work, for some direct mail work, and some different things. And the first day we started, Olivia kind of brought over a couple clients because the agency that she left to come to Greenlight was just really kind of just sank. And so we had a couple from there, and I had a project guy who all of a sudden was like, oh wait, you guys have resources now? And he was like, here, go to work. And we hit the ground running, working on, it was a company called Sage Telecom, and they were a regional, back then it was a regional phone long distance provider. So for rural communities, so smaller towns that most people have never heard of.
Last to get the internet,
Yeah. And it was pure acquisition and retention. So we got into immediately into a heavy DM rotation, and then started doing some stuff working into launching their product in Mexico. So just some cool stuff, and it just really was because all of a sudden we were like real, and
you were available. You were an actual agency.
And I think that to this day, knowing that someone looked at us as an agency and as not just freelance, independent kind of people, it really has framed up why today I still so firmly believe in you come to the office and great things happen. Learn from each other, feed off each other, drink beer with each other, fail with each other, succeed with each other. All of those things happen inside of an office space, and it's why we just really believe so strongly in the space that we have.
Awesome. So very cool. So what's next for you guys? So you're now, or it's May now, so you're 5 months into the pivot.
Into the new thing, right?
Where do you guys see yourselves the next 18 to 24 months?
That's the great question, and that's the exciting part. We will, in some ways, we will continue to, in the last year, we've won a couple of new businesses through that were kind of a pseudo pitch process. One was a pitch process, one was a kind of a rolling pitch process, and we'll always kind of take a look at those and see if those make sense for us. And those are the ones that become bigger retainer clients. The GoDo sessions have really been eye-opening for us. We're booking a lot of those, and with a lot of companies that are unexpected companies that we would never have thought of talking to as just sort of a traditional agency, because you start limiting yourself. You start putting, you start kind of guessing what they need versus asking what they need, and that shift has really opened doors and has kind of allowed us to talk to companies, because our belief in this model is really built around there's not a company out there that doesn't matter what you're doing that couldn't benefit from better understanding what their brand truth is, even if it's internal.
Definitely.
Which by the way needs to be where it starts. It's
Definitely.
got to be an internal embraced initiative before you can ever go out to your external audiences. So we've worked with engineering companies, nonprofit house builders, all these different businesses that are clamoring for a better path, and so we don't need to always chase the same big clients that everybody else chases to be successful. We can work with these other companies that truthfully some people have heard of, most people haven't, and kind of help do that. So we always want to land those clients that lead to ongoing agency branding work, but we're not limited by that.
So you're in Texas. I love Texas because I'm a barbecue lunatic.
Well, you know the saying, like, never ask someone if they're from Texas, because if they are, they'll tell you, and if they're not, you don't want to embarrass them.
That's true. that is but-um-thumb. Although
That's
I am
right.
from New York, so there's
There you go.
and everyone's from New York.
Well, barbecue, yeah, we own barbecue. We definitely know that.
So since you're in Dallas, I mean, I know Austin far
Sure.
better than I know Dallas. Even though the best steak I've ever had was in Dallas, I want to believe that the cow was killed 15 minutes before it hit my plate.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because I was like, this is beyond tender. I think it might still be milling.
Could have been.
But it was still amazing. All right, so because I love food and my audience loves food.
Yeah.
Where do I get the best barbecue in Dallas?
No, hands down, it's a really easy answer. Pecan Lodge. We love Pecan Lodge. There's another one that's been rated higher. That is called Cadillac, but they're only open a couple days a week. Pecan Lodge is open.
Open a couple days a week? How's it even possible?
It's small batch.
You get what you
it's
get.
amazing. But Pecan Lodge open most days, and just to die for brisket. It's just the sides are amazing. Right behind Pecan Lodge is Lockhart Barbecue, and Lockhart is in Oak Cliff in Bishop Arts. Also excellent, exceptional. If I take someone to Lockhart and they haven't had Pecan Lodge, they'll think it's the best they've ever had.
Aha.
Until they have Pecan Lodge.
And then they're like, you were holding out.
That's it. Well, you got to go. It's great.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be back in Dallas this summer, so I might come by and say hi to you.
Please do.
But Eric, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show.
This has been great.
And a great conversation. And it's always refreshing when seeing agencies who are like taking the big risk and going a different neck of the woods. And I think it's so amazing to see that you guys are made that shift and that you're bringing on clients who want to go on that ride. And I wish you all the luck in the world.
Well, thank you. No, it's been great, and have a great summer. Please come see us. We'll take you to Pecan Lodge. It will change your life.
Well, thanks again, Eric. And we'll be putting all these good locations in the show notes so that our audience can go grab some awesome barbecue.
Yes.
And that's our show. Thanks, everyone.